My husband leaves for his morning run at 5:30 a.m. every single day. He's done this for 6 months now. "I need to stay healthy, babe," he always says, kissing my forehead before heading out in his expensive running gear. I was proud of him. He'd come home sweaty, exhausted, glowing with that post-workout energy. "How many miles?" I'd ask. 5 miles. "New personal record," he'd say with a smile. But something was wrong. 6 months of daily 5-mile runs, and he hadn't lost a single pound. He never got faster. He never talked about routes or times like real runners do. He never signed up for a 5K race. He just ran every morning. Same time, same duration, always 2 hours exactly. So I checked his phone's location history. He wasn't running. He was going to the same address every single morning, 3425 Riverside Drive, an apartment across town. I drove there and waited. At 6:47 a.m., my husband walked out, with a woman and a little boy holding their hands. He kissed them both goodbye, got in his car, and drove home to me. When he walked through the door smiling, he said, "Great run today, honey." I smiled back. But before we continue, make sure you're subscribed to the channel and write in the comments where you're watching this video from. We love to know how far our stories travel. My name is Rachel Martinez. I'm 42 years old, and until 6 months ago, I thought I had a pretty good life. Not perfect, whose life is, but good, solid. I'm a financial analyst at Morrison & Associates, a mid-sized firm in downtown Denver. I make $120,000 a year analyzing investment portfolios and corporate balance sheets. Numbers have always made sense to me in a way people sometimes don't. Numbers don't lie. They tell you exactly what's happening if you know how to read them. My husband David was a real estate developer. 44 years old, handsome in that aging well way some men manage, with salt and pepper hair and the kind of confidence that comes from closing big deals. He made good money, or so he told me. Around $200,000 a year, he said, though his income fluctuated with market conditions. We'd been married for 15 years. Together, we had 2 kids, Sophie 13 and Max 10. We lived in a beautiful 4-bedroom house in Cherry Creek, one of Denver's nicer suburbs. The kind of house with a 2-car garage, a manicured lawn, and neighbors who threw block parties. I thought we were happy. Not movie-perfect happy, but real-life happy. David traveled sometimes for work, meeting investors, checking properties, networking. I worked long hours during tax season and quarterly closings. We were busy, like most couples with careers and kids, but we made it work. We had date nights once a month. We went to Sophie's volleyball games and Max's soccer matches. We were a family. And then 6 months ago, David announced his health kick. It was a Tuesday morning in April. I was making coffee when he came downstairs in brand new running clothes, expensive ones, the kind with moisture-wicking fabric and reflective strips. Nike shoes that probably cost $200. "What's all this?" I asked, smiling. "I'm starting a morning running routine," he announced, with the enthusiasm of someone who'd just discovered religion. "I turned 44 last month, Rach. I'm not getting any younger. I need to take care of myself. For you, for the kids." I was touched, genuinely touched. David had always been in decent shape. He played golf occasionally and went to the gym sporadically, but he'd never been disciplined about exercise. This seemed like growth, maturity, taking responsibility for his health. "That's great, honey," I said, kissing his cheek. "I'm proud of you. I'm going to do it every morning. 5:30 a.m. before work. That way it's done and I don't have excuses. Every morning? That's ambitious," he grinned. "I'm an ambitious guy," and he kept his word. The next morning, 5:30 a.m., I heard him moving around the bedroom, getting dressed in the dark. I was barely awake, but I mumbled, "Have a good run." "Thanks, babe. See you in a couple hours." 2 hours seemed like a long time for a run, but I didn't think much of it. Maybe he was taking it slow, cooling down afterward, stretching. I fell back asleep. When I came downstairs at 7:30, he was in the kitchen, showered and dressed for work, making eggs. "How was it?" I asked. "Amazing," he said, his face glowing. "I forgot how good it feels to really move, you know." I did about 3 miles. I'll build up from there. Over the following weeks, it became routine. David left at 5:30 a.m. every single morning, including weekends. He'd return around 7:30, shower, dress, and head to work. On weekends, he'd shower and spend the day with us, often mentioning how the run had cleared his mind or energized him. I was genuinely proud. My friends at work talked about their husbands' beer bellies and dad bods, their resistance to exercise. "You're so lucky," my coworker Janet said. "Tom won't even walk to the mailbox. How'd you get David to run every day?" "I didn't get him to do anything," I said. "He decided on his own. I think he's having a midlife crisis, but at least it's a healthy one." We laughed about it. The healthy midlife crisis. So much better than a sports car or an affair, except it wasn't healthy, and it wasn't just a crisis. The first time I felt something was wrong was about 3 months in. July. We were at a backyard barbecue at our friend's house, and David was talking to Mike, who actually was a serious runner, marathons, ultra races, the whole thing. "So you're running every day now?" Mike asked David. "That's great, man. What's your route?" David waved his hand vaguely. "Oh, I mix it up. Different neighborhoods, you know. Keeps it interesting. What's your pace? You tracking it on an app?" "Nah, I don't like running with my phone. I just go by feel." Mike looked surprised. Most runners are obsessed with tracking. Distance, pace, heart rate, everything. But David seemed allergic to specifics. "You should sign up for the Cherry Creek 10K in September," Mike suggested. "Great course. We could train together. Maybe," David said, smiling but non-committal. "I'm not really into racing. I just do it for the health benefits." Later in the car, I asked him about it. "Why don't you want to run a race?" "It could be fun." "Mike would do it with you," David shrugged. "I don't need external validation, Rach. I'm not running to prove anything to anyone. I'm doing it for me." It sounded reasonable. Mature, even. But something about it nagged at me. The second warning sign came in August. David had been running for 4 months at that point. Every single day. According to him, he was up to 5 or 6 miles per run, but he hadn't lost any weight. Not a single pound. I would know. I did the laundry. His clothes fit exactly the same. There was no visible muscle definition. No runner's physique developing. When I gently brought it up, "Honey, have you noticed any changes?" "You've been so dedicated," he got defensive. "Not everyone loses weight from running, Rachel. Some people just maintain. And I feel better, which is what matters." "Why are you questioning this?" "I'm not questioning anything," I said quickly. "I just wanted to make sure you're seeing results for all your hard work. The result is that I'm healthier. That's enough." But it wasn't adding up. 4 months of daily running, no dietary changes, and no physical changes at all? As someone who analyzes data for a living, I couldn't make the math work. The third sign was the shoes. David bought new running shoes every single month. Expensive ones, $200 to $250 a pair. When I commented on it, "Honey, do you really need new shoes already? The old ones look fine." He had an explanation ready. "Running shoes break down fast when you use them every day," he said. "The cushioning compresses. If I don't replace them regularly, I'll get injured. It's an investment in my health." But when I looked at his old shoes before he threw them away, they barely looked worn. The treads were intact. There were no signs of the kind of wear you'd see on shoes that had logged 150+ miles. I started paying attention to other details. David always showered immediately when he got home from his runs. Always. He never sat down first, never had a glass of water while cooling down. He went straight to the bathroom and showered for at least 20 minutes, and his runner's high that he'd talk about, it seemed off. Real runners I knew talked about the struggle, the mental battle, the specific challenges of different routes. David just gave generic descriptions. Great run. Felt good. Really cleared my head. By September, 5 months into his routine, I started having a terrible thought that I tried to push away. What if he's not running at all? But if he wasn't running, what was he doing for 2 hours every single morning? The breaking point came on a Saturday in early October. David had left for his morning run as usual, 5:30 a.m., like clockwork. I was lying in bed, unable to fall back asleep, my mind churning with all the inconsistencies I'd been trying to ignore. I got up and went to his office. David had a home office where he kept his work files, his computer, his personal documents. I'd never snooped before. In 15 years of marriage, I'd never felt the need to. I trusted him completely, but trust was crumbling, replaced by a cold certainty that something was very wrong. His laptop was password protected, but I knew the password. Sophie's birthday. We'd always been open about these things. I logged in, my heart pounding. I went straight to his Google timeline. If you have location services turned on, Google tracks everywhere you go. Most people don't realize how detailed this tracking is, but as someone who works with data, I knew exactly what to look for. I pulled up the last 6 months and filtered for mornings between 5:30 a.m. and 7:30 a.m. What I saw made my hands go cold. Every single morning. David's phone went to the same place. 3425 Riverside Drive, Unit 204. An address on the other side of Denver, at least 20 minutes from our house. He arrived there around 5:50 a.m. and left around 7 a.m., not a park. Not a running trail. Not a gym. An apartment building, the same apartment, every single day. For 6 months, I sat there staring at the screen, my breath coming in short gasps. The evidence was undeniable. David wasn't running. He was going to an apartment, the same apartment, every morning for 2 hours. I pulled up Google Maps and looked at the address. Riverside Tower Apartments. A mid-range complex in the Highland neighborhood. Not luxury, but nice, the kind of place a single professional might live. Or someone's mistress. My mind raced through possibilities, each more painful than the last. An affair. Obviously an affair. Some woman he was seeing every morning before work. But who? And for 6 months? And how had he kept it secret so perfectly? I looked at the dates more carefully. The pattern had started exactly 6 months ago, on April 15th. The first day of his running routine. There wasn't a single day missing. Not one. Even when he was supposedly too sore to run, even on holidays, every single morning he'd gone to that address. This wasn't a casual affair. This was systematic, planned, a routine. I needed to know who lived at 3425 Riverside Drive, Unit 204. I could hire a private investigator. That's what people did in this situation, right? But I'm a financial analyst. I investigate things for a living. I find patterns in data, uncover discrepancies in numbers. I could do this myself. I grabbed my phone and purse and got dressed quickly. It was 6:30 a.m. If David's pattern held, he'd be at that apartment for another 30 minutes before driving home. I could get there in 20 minutes. I could see him leave. I could see who he was with. The drive across. Denver in the early morning was surreal. The city was just waking up. A few joggers on the streets. Real joggers, I thought bitterly. Some early shift workers heading to their cars. The sun was rising, painting the sky orange and pink. I felt like I was outside my own body, watching myself drive towards something that would change everything. Part of me wanted to turn around, go home, pretend I'd never looked at that location history. Ignorance had been comfortable. Certainty was going to be agony, but I kept driving. Riverside. Tower Apartments was a 6-story building with a bland, 1980s architectural style, all brick and small balconies and generic landscaping. There was a parking lot in front and a secured entrance with a call box. I parked across the street where I had a clear view of the entrance and waited. My hands shook on the steering wheel. My heart hammered so hard I could feel it in my throat. I kept checking the time on my dashboard. 6:52 a.m. According to his pattern, he'd leave around 7 at 6:47 a.m. The building's front door opened. David walked out, but he wasn't alone. Next to him was a woman. Late 20s, maybe 30 at most. Long dark hair, pretty, wearing yoga pants and an oversized sweater. She was smiling up at him, laughing at something he'd said, and holding David's other hand was a little boy, maybe 3 or 4 years old. Dark hair like the woman. He was chattering excitedly, pointing at something. I watched, couldn't breathe, couldn't move, just watched, as David bent down and kissed the child on the top of his head. Then he straightened and kissed the woman. Not a quick peck, a real kiss. The kiss of someone comfortable with intimacy. The woman said something and laughed. David laughed too. He looked happy, relaxed, more relaxed than I'd seen him in years. Then he walked to his car, the same silver Audi he drove every day, got in, and pulled out of the parking lot, going home. To me, the woman and the child walked back inside the building, the little boy skipping beside her. I sat in my car, unable to process what I'd just seen. My brain kept trying to find alternative explanations, anything other than the obvious truth staring me in the face. That was a child. David had kissed a child, held his hand, kissed a woman, a young, beautiful woman, and then driven home to me like it was just another morning. How long? How long had this been going on? The location data said 6 months, but what if he'd been seeing her before that and only recently established this morning routine? And the child. Oh God, the child. How old? 3, 4? If the child was 3, that meant, no, I couldn't go there yet. I couldn't let my mind calculate that timeline. I started my car with shaking hands and drove home. I had to beat David there. He couldn't know I'd followed him, not yet. Not until I understood what I was dealing with. I made it home with 3 minutes to spare. I ran inside, stripped off my jacket, and was making coffee in the kitchen, attempting to look normal, like I'd just woken up, when I heard David's car in the driveway. The front door opened. "Honey, I'm back," his cheerful voice called out. I gripped the counter, forcing my breathing to steady. "In the kitchen," I called back, proud that my voice didn't shake. David walked in, his running clothes damp with what I now knew wasn't sweat from running. His face was flushed, glowing. He looked happy. "Great run today, honey," he said, kissing my cheek. The same lips that had kissed that woman 20 minutes ago. I smiled. "Tell me all about it." He launched into his usual vague description while pouring himself coffee. "Felt really good today. Hit a nice rhythm, you know. Got about 6 miles in. New personal best." "That's wonderful," I said, my voice somehow steady. "I'm proud of you. You've been so dedicated." "Well, you know me," he grinned. "When I commit to something, I commit." The irony of that statement hit me like a physical blow. Oh, he'd committed all right. Committed to a double life. Committed to lying to me every single morning for 6 months. "Hey, what's wrong?" David frowned, studying my face. "You look pale. Are you feeling okay?" "I'm fine," I lied. "Just tired. Didn't sleep well. You should go back to bed for a bit," he said, his voice full of false concern. "I'll get the kids up and make breakfast." "No, I'm up now." "I'll make breakfast. You go shower." I needed him out of the room before I lost control of my face. "Okay." He kissed the top of my head. "Love you, Rach." "Love you too," I said automatically. The words ash in my mouth. I stood in the kitchen after he left, listening to the shower start upstairs, and felt my entire world crumbling around me. 15 years. 15 years of marriage. 2 children. A home. A life. And every morning for 6 months, he'd been kissing another woman, holding another child's hand, living another life, then coming home to me and smiling like everything was fine. I poured my coffee down the sink. I couldn't drink it. My stomach was churning too badly, and walked to David's office. I had work to do. I needed to understand the full scope of this. I needed data, evidence, the complete picture, because I'm a financial analyst, and I know that when you find one discrepancy, there are always more hiding underneath. I just had to know where to look. I pulled up our joint bank account first. We'd always had shared finances. We made good money. We trusted each other. We had nothing to hide. Or so I'd thought. I started going through 6 months of transactions, looking for patterns, for anything unusual, and there it was, like a thread I could pull to unravel everything, every month. Without fail, a withdrawal of $3,500, cash, from an ATM, always on the first of the month, $3,500, every month, I scrolled back. Not 6 months. Longer. My hands were shaking as I went back further. 1 year. 2 years. 3, 4 years. For 4 years, David had been withdrawing $3,500 in cash every single month. And I'd never noticed because I didn't usually look at our checking account that carefully. We both deposited our paychecks. We both spent money. The balance stayed healthy. I'd had no reason to scrutinize individual transactions, but now I was scrutinizing. Now I was calculating $3,500 per month for 4 years was $168,000. $168,000 had disappeared from our joint account, and I'd never noticed. What else had I missed? I opened our credit card statements. We had 2 cards, one we used for everything and one we kept for emergencies. I checked the emergency card first. My stomach dropped. The key? Emergency card had a balance of $45,000. The limit was $50,000. David had maxed out our emergency credit card, and I'd never known because I didn't monitor it regularly. The statements came to his email, which I never checked. What was he spending $45,000 on? I clicked through the itemized charges. Grocery stores. Gas stations, Target, Walmart, children's clothing stores. Toys R Us. A children's clothing store. Multiple charges, hundreds of dollars each. Toys. That little boy. The one holding David's hand this morning. David had a child. Another child, with another woman, and he'd been supporting them, financially, emotionally, physically, for years, while coming home to me every day and acting like a devoted husband and father. I pushed away from the desk and ran to the bathroom. barely making it before I vomited into the toilet. My whole body shook. I knelt there on the cold tile floor, gasping, my mind unable to fully process the magnitude of what I'd discovered. 15 years of marriage, 4 years of secret family, $168,000 stolen, a child. David had another child, Rachel. David's voice from outside the bathroom door. "You okay in there?" I flushed the toilet and stood up, wiping my mouth with shaking hands. "I'm fine," I called out. "Just felt sick for a second. You sure? Want me to bring you anything?" "No, I'm fine. Just give me a minute." I looked at myself in the mirror. My face was white, my eyes red. I looked like someone whose life had just imploded. Because it had, but I couldn't let David see that. Not yet. Not until I had all the information. Not until I had a plan. I splashed cold water on my face, steadied my breathing, and opened the bathroom door. David was standing in the hallway, dressed for work, his face full of fake concern. "You really don't look good, Rach. Maybe you should stay home today." "I'm fine," I said firmly. "Just something I ate, probably." It passed. He studied me for a moment, and I wondered if he could see the truth written on my face. If he knew that I knew. But then he smiled and kissed my forehead. "Okay, but take it easy today, all right? And text me if you need anything." "I will." I watched him leave for work, watched him drive away to whatever life he lived during the day while maintaining 2 separate families. Then I went back to his office and continued my investigation. Because David Martinez had made one critical mistake. He'd married a financial analyst, someone who knew how to read numbers, find patterns, uncover fraud. He'd been hiding a secret life for 4 years, and I was going to expose every single detail. I didn't go to work that day. I called in sick, which wasn't entirely a lie. I was sick with betrayal, sick with rage, sick with the knowledge that my entire marriage had been a carefully constructed facade. Instead, I sat in David's office and did what I do best. I analyzed data. By noon, I had a complete financial picture of my husband's double life. And it was even worse than I'd imagined. The $3,500 monthly withdrawals were just the beginning. I found a second credit card I'd never known about, one in David's name only, with statements going to an email address I didn't have access to. But by cross-referencing charges that appeared on our joint card with dates and amounts, I was able to piece together his spending patterns. He'd been systematic about it. Groceries purchased at a King Soopers near Riverside Drive, gas station charges in that neighborhood, utility payments I could track through our bank's bill pay system, payments going to Xcel Energy and Denver Water for an address that wasn't our house. 25 Riverside Drive, Unit 204. David was paying the utilities for that apartment, which meant he was either paying the rent directly or the woman lived there and he covered her expenses. I pulled up the county assessor's website and searched the address. The property was owned by a corporate landlord, so I couldn't see individual lease agreements. But I could see that units in that building rented for approximately $2,200 per month. Add $2,200 rent to $3,500 monthly cash withdrawals, to utilities, to credit card, charges for groceries, clothing, and household items. And David was spending somewhere around $6,500 to $7,000 per month, supporting his second family. For 4 years, the math was devastating. Over 4 years, he'd spent somewhere between $312,000 and $336,000 on his secret life. But our joint savings account, which should have had close to $200,000 in it, had only $12,000. Where had the rest gone? I dug deeper into our financial records, going back 5 years this time, and found it. David had refinanced our house 3 years ago. Without telling me, our house was worth about $750,000. We'd paid off about half the mortgage before the refinance. David had taken out a new loan for $550,000, essentially a cash-out refinance of $200,000. He'd forged my signature on the documents. Had to have. I would never have agreed to refinance without discussing it, and I had no memory of signing anything. That was fraud. Actual criminal fraud. The $200,000 had gone into our joint account briefly. I found the deposit and then been slowly drained over the following months through cash withdrawals and transfers to accounts I couldn't trace. My husband had stolen from me. From our children, he'd mortgaged our home, forged my signature, and used the money to fund his affair and support his secret child. I sat back in the office chair, staring at the numbers on the screen, and felt something cold and hard crystallize inside me. This wasn't just betrayal. This was calculated, systematic theft. David hadn't made a mistake or had a moment of weakness. He'd built an entire infrastructure of lies and financial manipulation over years, and he'd done it all while kissing me goodbye every morning and telling me he loved me. I picked up my phone and started searching for private investigators in Denver. I needed more than financial records. I needed to know everything: who this woman was, how long the affair had been going on, how old the child was, whether David had been involved in the child's life from birth. I needed ammunition. Because I wasn't just going to divorce David, I was going to destroy him. I found Emma Chen through a referral website for private investigators. Her profile said she specialized in marital investigations and had 25 years of experience. Her photo showed a woman in her early 50s with short gray hair and sharp, intelligent eyes. I called her directly. Chen Investigations, this is Emma. Hi, my name is Rachel Martinez. I need to hire you to investigate my husband. I see. Can you tell me briefly what's going on? I gave her the condensed version, the fake running routine, the location history showing daily visits to an apartment, seeing him with a woman and child that morning. Emma was quiet for a moment. Mrs. Martinez, I'm going to be very direct with you. What you're describing sounds like your husband has a second family. In my experience, these situations are usually far more extensive than the betrayed spouse initially realizes. Are you prepared for what we might find? Yes, I said, surprised by how steady my voice was. I want to know everything, no matter how bad it is. All right, I can meet with you this afternoon if you're available. I'm going to need some information from you. Photos of your husband, his vehicle information, his work schedule, any financial records you can provide. And Mrs. Martinez, don't confront him yet. Don't let him know you're suspicious. Men in these situations can become unpredictable when they realize they've been caught. I won't say anything, I promise. Good. Let's meet at 2 p.m. I'll text you the address of my office. Emma Chen's office was in a nondescript building in Capitol Hill, the kind of place you'd walk past without noticing. Her office itself was small but professional. Desk, filing cabinets, a couple of chairs for clients. She shook my hand firmly. Mrs. Martinez, thank you for coming. Please, sit. I sat down and handed her a folder I'd prepared. Printed photos of David from our family photos. His license plate number, his work address, and copies of the financial records I'd found. Emma flipped through the documents, her expression neutral but focused. This is very thorough. You mentioned you're a financial analyst? Yes, numbers are my specialty. I can see that. This level of detail is going to make my job much easier. She looked up at me. Tell me about this morning. You said you saw him with a woman and child? I described what I'd witnessed. The kiss goodbye, the little boy, the comfortable intimacy between them. And you said the location data shows he's been going to this address every morning for 6 months? Yes, never missed a day. But the financial records show unusual activity going back 4 years. 4 years of monthly cash withdrawals. 3 years since he refinanced the house. Emma nodded slowly. Here's what I think is happening, Mrs. Martinez. Your husband has been involved with this woman for at least 4 years, possibly longer. The child you saw this morning is likely 3 to 4 years old based on your description, which means he was born during your marriage. The morning visit started 6 months ago, but the relationship has been ongoing much longer than that. So the running routine is just his excuse to see them every morning? Exactly. He established a pattern that gives him 2 hours of unaccounted time every day. That's very sophisticated. Most cheating spouses are sloppier, late nights at work, business trips, that sort of thing. Your husband created a routine that happens when you're still asleep, so you can't observe any changes in his behavior. What do you need from me? I need you to go home and act completely normal. Don't change anything about your behavior. I'm going to conduct surveillance on your husband for the next week. Follow him, photograph him, document his movements. I'll also run a background check on the woman and see what I can find out about her and the child. How long will this take? For basic surveillance and background information? About a week? But Mrs. Martinez, I also recommend we look into something else. Emma's expression became more serious. You said your husband forged your signature on mortgage documents. That's a felony. I have connections with forensic document examiners who can compare the signature on those documents to your actual signature. If we can prove forgery, you have grounds not just for divorce but for criminal charges. The thought sent a chill through me. Criminal charges. David could go to jail. Would you recommend that? I asked. That's entirely your decision. But in my experience, cases like this, where there's been systematic financial fraud alongside the affair, the betrayed spouse needs every piece of leverage they can get. Your husband has been living a double life for years. He's not going to give that up easily. If you want to protect yourself and your children financially, you need to be prepared to play hardball. I thought about my kids, Sophie and Max, who had no idea their father had been living a lie, who had a half-sibling they didn't know existed. Do it, I said. I want everything. All the evidence you can find. Financial, photographic, documentary, everything. Emma smiled slightly. You're going to do just fine, Mrs. Martinez. A lot of the people who come to me are too emotional to think strategically, but you're already thinking several steps ahead. That's good. You're going to need that. The next 7 days were the longest of my life. I had to go home every evening and pretend everything was normal. I had to smile at David, make conversation about our days, sit through family dinners without screaming at him. I had to watch him kiss our children goodnight while knowing he was doing the same thing with another child every morning. The acting required was exhausting. But I'd spent 15 years not seeing what was right in front of me. Now I could spend 1 week pretending I still didn't see it. Emma texted me updates every day, brief, professional messages that I'd read in my office bathroom. The only place I could be sure David couldn't see my face. Day 1. Confirmed subject arrived at Riverside Drive address at 5:48 a.m. Departed 7:02 a.m. Woman and child observed at window. Taking photos. Day 2. Subject visited Target. Purchased children's clothing, diapers, toys. Total 347. Used credit card ending in 4892. The card I hadn't known existed. Day 3. Ran preliminary background on woman. Name: Melissa Torres, age 29, works as waitress at the Riverbend restaurant. No criminal record. Single mother per public records. Day 4. Child's birth certificate obtained through public records. Name: Lucas David Martinez. Father listed: David Martinez. Mother: Melissa Torres. Date of birth: November 3rd, 4 years ago. That one made me sit down on the bathroom floor. Lucas David Martinez. David had put his name on the birth certificate. He'd acknowledged paternity. This wasn't a fling or a mistake. He'd been there for this child's birth. He was the father of record. Sophie had been 9 years old when Lucas was born. Max had been 6. While I was helping them with homework and driving them to soccer practice, David was at a hospital welcoming another child into the world. Day 5. Interviewed co-worker of subject's mistress. Co-worker states Melissa believes subject is divorced. He told her his ex-wife, Yu, is unstable and they have joint custody of children. He claims to work night shift security, which explains why he's not available evenings. I read that message 3 times, my hands shaking. David had told Melissa I was his crazy ex-wife, that we were divorced, that he worked nights. Melissa didn't know about me. Not really. She thought she was dating a divorced dad with a difficult ex. She had no idea he went home to his wife every evening. Both of us were victims of his lies, but I couldn't bring myself to feel sympathy for her. She'd been sleeping with my husband for 4 years. Whether she knew the whole truth or not, she'd been part of destroying my family. Day 6. Subject took extended lunch break, met Melissa at restaurant where she works. Observed intimate behavior, hand-holding, kissing. They appear to be an established romantic relationship. Photos attached. I didn't open the photos. I couldn't. Not yet. Day 7. Forensic document examiner confirms signature on mortgage refinance documents does not match your verified signatures on other legal documents. Discrepancies consistent with forgery. Will provide full report. Recommend consulting with attorney immediately. That night at dinner, David asked me if I was feeling okay. You've been quiet all week, he said, reaching across the table to touch my hand. Is something wrong? I looked at his face. This man I'd loved for 15 years, this father of my children, and saw a stranger, a skilled liar, a manipulator. I'm fine, I said, smiling. Just tired. Big project at work. You work too hard, he said with apparent concern. You should take a day off. Relax. Maybe I will, I said. After dinner, after the kids went to bed, David pulled me into a hug. I love you, Rach. You know that, right? I know, I said, the lie tasting like poison. He kissed me, and I let him, all while thinking about him kissing Melissa that afternoon at her restaurant. When he finally went to bed, I went to the office and read Emma's final report. It was comprehensive. 30 pages of documentation. Surveillance photos, financial analysis, background checks, witness statements, the forensic signature analysis. The photos were the worst. David and Melissa walking hand in hand through a park, Lucas running ahead of them. David pushing Lucas on a swing. David and Melissa kissing in her apartment doorway. There was one photo that broke something inside me. David, Melissa, and Lucas at a pumpkin patch last October. Lucas was sitting on David's shoulders, grinning at the camera Melissa was holding. They looked like a family, a happy, normal family. That same October, David had taken Sophie and Max to a different pumpkin patch. I'd stayed home, working on a deadline. I'd seen his photos on Facebook. David smiling with our kids, picking pumpkins, riding the hayride. He'd gone to the pumpkin patch twice that month, once with each family. I closed the laptop and sat in the darkness of David's office, and something inside me that had been cracking all week finally broke completely. I wasn't sad anymore. I was beyond sad. I was cold, calculating, furious in a way I'd never experienced before. David thought he could have everything, both families, both lives. He thought he was smart enough to juggle it all forever. He was wrong. The next morning, I called Patricia Reeves, the attorney Emma had recommended. Patricia was a divorce lawyer with a reputation for being ruthless. She doesn't play nice, Emma had said, which is exactly what you need. Patricia's office was in downtown Denver, in one of those glass tower buildings that scream expensive lawyer. Her assistant led me into a conference room with a view of the mountains. Patricia entered a moment later, a woman in her late 50s with perfectly styled gray hair and a navy suit that probably cost more than my car payment. She shook my hand firmly. Mrs. Martinez, Emma Chen sent over your case files. I've reviewed everything. She sat down across from me and looked at me with sharp, assessing eyes. What are your goals here? I want a divorce. I want custody of my children. I want to make sure David doesn't get a penny of my money or my retirement accounts. And I want him to pay for what he's done, financially or legally. Both. Patricia smiled slightly. Good. Let me tell you what we're working with. Your husband has committed several crimes: mortgage fraud, forgery, possibly tax fraud if he's been claiming improper deductions. The mortgage fraud alone is a felony in Colorado, punishable by up to 3 years in prison and fines up to $100,000. Would he actually go to prison? That depends on several factors: whether we press charges, whether the DA prosecutes, whether he has a good lawyer. But the threat of criminal charges is powerful leverage in divorce negotiations. Your husband will be motivated to settle quickly and generously if the alternative is prison time. What about custody? Given that your husband has been maintaining a secret second family and committing financial crimes, you have a very strong case for primary custody. He'll likely get visitation rights unless we can prove he's a danger to the children, but the court will consider his pattern of deception when making custody decisions. He has another child, a 4-year-old son. Will that affect anything? It demonstrates a pattern of poor judgment and divided loyalties, which works in your favor. However, the existence of the other child also means your husband has financial obligations to that child, which affects his ability to pay child support and alimony to you. I hadn't thought about that. Lucas, David's other son, would need support too. David's income would be stretched thin. Good. Here's what I recommend, Patricia continued. We file for divorce immediately, but we do it strategically. First, we freeze all joint assets, bank accounts, investment accounts, everything. We get a court order preventing him from accessing or moving marital funds. Second, we file a police report for the mortgage fraud and forgery. Third, we inform his employer about the fraud. And fourth, she paused for effect, we make it as public as possible. Public? Your husband has been living a double life, committing crimes, violating your trust, but he has a professional reputation to maintain. He's a real estate developer, which means his credibility is crucial to his business. If we make this public, file papers with the court, inform his business partners, let it leak to his social circle, he loses everything. His reputation, his business relationships, his standing in the community. You want me to humiliate him. I want you to have leverage. Right now, your husband thinks he's in control. He thinks his secret is safe. When he realizes it's not, when he realizes he's about to lose everything, he'll be desperate to settle on whatever terms we offer. I thought about David's face that morning, smiling as he lied about his run. I thought about him kissing Melissa while telling me he loved me. I thought about him putting his name on Lucas's birth certificate while my children thought they were his only family. Do it, I said. All of it. I want him to lose everything. Patricia's smile was sharp and satisfied. Then we're going to get along very well, Mrs. Martinez. I'll start drafting papers today. But before we file anything, I need to ask you one question. Are you absolutely certain you want to go down this path? Once we start, there's no going back. Your husband's life is going to be destroyed. Your children are going to learn very painful truths about their father. Your own life is going to be under scrutiny. This is going to be ugly and public and emotionally devastating. Are you prepared for that? I looked at Patricia, this woman who was offering me the tools to dismantle my husband's life piece by piece. I'm certain, I said. He made his choices. Now he lives with the consequences. Good. Then let's get started. Over the next week, Patricia worked with frightening efficiency. She filed a motion to freeze all our joint financial accounts. She prepared divorce papers citing adultery, fraud, and irreconcilable differences. She contacted a criminal attorney who agreed to help us file a police report for mortgage fraud, and she helped me plan what she called the reveal. You could just serve him papers and let him find out that way, Patricia said during one of our meetings. But given what he's done, given how systematically he's lied to you, I think you deserve to see his face when his world comes crashing down. You deserve to take back some power. What do you suggest? Invite people over. His parents, your best friends, maybe his business partner. Tell them you're having a dinner party, something innocuous. Then when everyone's there, show them the evidence. Let David explain himself in front of the people whose respect he values most. It was cruel. It was vindictive. It was perfect. When? I asked. This Saturday. That gives us time to prepare everything. By the time David leaves that dinner party, everyone he knows will understand exactly what kind of man he is. And on Monday morning, we file the divorce papers and the police report. He won't have time to prepare a defense or control the narrative. I thought about it for maybe 3 seconds. Let's do it. That Friday afternoon, I sent out invitations via text. David and I are hosting a dinner party tomorrow night at 6 p.m. It's been too long since we've all gotten together. Please come. Rachel. I invited David's parents, Richard and Carol. I invited my best friend Janet and her husband. I invited David's business partner Tom. I invited our neighbors, Mike and Linda. Everyone accepted. Why wouldn't they? We were having a dinner party. Normal, boring, suburban socializing. Only I knew what was really going to happen. Saturday morning, David left for his run as usual. I'll be back in a couple hours, he said, kissing me goodbye. Have a good run, I said, smiling. See you later. I watched him drive away, knowing he was going to Melissa's apartment, to his other son, to his other life. I watched him leave, and I felt nothing but cold certainty. Tonight, everything would end. Tonight, David would finally face the truth, and I was going to make sure everyone he loved was there to watch. Saturday evening arrived with perfect autumn weather, crisp air, golden light filtering through the trees in our backyard. I'd spent the afternoon preparing food, setting the table, arranging everything to look like a normal dinner party. Lasagna, salad, garlic bread, wine. Everything perfect. Everything normal, except for the laptop I'd hidden in the living room, loaded with Emma Chen's full investigation report. 30 pages of surveillance photos, financial documents, and witness statements, all organized into a devastating presentation. David had returned from his morning run in his usual good mood, showered, and spent the day working in his office. He had no idea what was coming. Why would he? I'd been acting completely normal all week. Smiling, chatting, pretending everything was fine. I'd become as good a liar as he was. At 5:30 p.m., David came downstairs dressed nicely. Button-down shirt, slacks. You look beautiful, he said, kissing my cheek. This is nice having everyone over. We should do this more often. We should, I agreed, my voice steady. The doorbell rang at 5:55 p.m. Richard and Carol, David's parents, arrived first. Carol hugged me warmly. Rachel, darling, thank you so much for having us. It's been too long, Richard shook David's hand. Son, how's business? Great, Dad, really great. I'll tell you all about it. Over the next 15 minutes, everyone else arrived. Janet and her husband, Steve. Tom, David's business partner. Mike and Linda from next door. Sophie and Max were upstairs. I'd told them to stay in their rooms during the party. That this was an adult evening. They'd grumbled but agreed. By 6:15 p.m., everyone was gathered in our living room with drinks, chatting and laughing. It looked exactly like what I'd told them it was. a casual Saturday night dinner party with friends and family. David was in his element, telling a funny story about a difficult client, making everyone laugh. He looked happy, relaxed, confident. He had no idea his entire life was about to implode. At 6:30 p.m., I stood up and gently tapped my wine glass with a fork. The conversation died down as everyone turned to look at me. "Thank you all so much for coming tonight," I said, my voice warm and gracious. "It means a lot to David and me to have you all here. Before we eat, I wanted to share something with you. A little presentation about our marriage." David looked confused but pleased. "Rach, what is this?" "Just something I put together. A little trip down memory lane." I smiled at him, and I saw the exact moment when something flickered in his eyes. A tiny spark of doubt. A question, but it was too late to run. I picked up the laptop from the side table and connected it to our TV. The screen lit up with a photo, a beautiful picture from our wedding day 15 years ago. David and me, young and smiling, cutting the cake. 15 years ago, I married the man I thought was the love of my life, I said, my voice still calm. We built this beautiful home together. We have 2 wonderful children. I thought we were happy. Another photo appeared on the screen. David with baby Sophie, then David with baby Max. Family vacations, Christmases, birthdays. Everyone was smiling, enjoying this walk through our family memories. Carol had her hand on her chest, clearly moved. But something interesting happened 6 months ago, I continued. David started a morning running routine. Every single day at 5:30 a.m., he'd leave for a 2-hour run. I was so proud of him for taking his health seriously. The screen changed to a map showing GPS coordinates, red dots marking the same location over and over again. Except he wasn't running. The room went very quiet. Every morning for 6 months, David's phone went to the same address, 3425 Riverside Drive, Unit 204. Another click. A surveillance photo appeared on the screen. David walking out of an apartment building with a woman and a small boy. Someone gasped. "I didn't look to see who." "This is Melissa Torres," I said, my voice still eerily calm. "She's 29 years old. She works as a waitress at the Riverbend restaurant. And this," another click, zooming in on the little boy. "This is Lucas David Martinez. He's 4 years old. According to his birth certificate, which is a matter of public record, David is listed as his father." Carol stood up abruptly, her face white. "David, what is this?" David was staring at the screen, frozen. All the color had drained from his face. "Rachel, this isn't—" "Let me save you the trouble of lying," I interrupted. "I hired a private investigator. I have 7 days of surveillance footage showing you visiting this apartment every morning. I have witness statements from Melissa's co-workers. I have financial records showing you've been withdrawing $3,500 cash every month for 4 years to support your second family." Bank statements appeared on the screen, with the withdrawals highlighted in yellow. "I also discovered that 3 years ago, you refinanced our house without my knowledge or consent, taking out $200,000 in cash. Here's the interesting part. The mortgage documents appeared. The signature on these documents isn't mine. I had a forensic document examiner analyze it. You forged my signature, David. That's a felony." "Oh my God," Janet whispered. Richard was on his feet now, too. "Son, tell me this isn't true. Tell me you didn't—" "Dad, I can explain," David started, but his voice was shaking. "Please do explain," I said, turning to face him fully. "Explain to your parents how you've been living a double life for 4 years. Explain to Tom how you've been embezzling from our joint accounts that are supposed to fund our children's future, to pay for your mistress and your illegitimate child. Explain to everyone here how you've been leaving our bed at 5:30 every morning to go kiss another woman and another child before coming home to me and pretending everything is fine." More photos appeared on the screen, cycling automatically now. David and Melissa holding hands. David pushing Lucas on a swing. David and Melissa kissing in her doorway. Then the worst one. David, Melissa, and Lucas at the pumpkin patch, looking like a perfect little family. "This photo was taken last October," I said. "The same day David took our children to a different pumpkin patch. He managed to fit in both families that day. Quite the logistical achievement." Carol was crying now. "How could you?" she said to David, her voice breaking. "How could you do this to Rachel? To your children?" "Mom, please, just let me explain." "Explain what?" Richard's voice was like thunder. "That you've been cheating on your wife? That you have another child? That you've been stealing money and forging documents? What exactly is there to explain? David looked around the room at all the faces staring at him, shock, disgust, betrayal written on every one of them. His business partner Tom was shaking his head slowly, backing away like David was contaminated. Then David turned to me, and I saw something I'd never seen before in his eyes. Real fear. "Rachel, please. Can we talk about this privately? We don't need to do this in front of everyone." "You're right," I said. "We didn't need to do this in front of everyone. Just like you didn't need to destroy our marriage, create a second family, commit fraud, and lie to me every single day for 4 years. But you made your choices, David, and now you get to face the consequences publicly, just like I had to face the private devastation of discovering what you'd done." I walked over to the laptop and pulled up one final document. "This is a divorce petition that will be filed Monday morning. I'm citing adultery, fraud, and irreconcilable differences. I'm seeking primary custody of Sophie and Max, the house, 70% of our marital assets, and child support. I'm also filing a police report for mortgage fraud and forgery." "You can't," David started. "I can, and I am. Additionally, Tom," I turned to David's business partner, "you should know that David has been using funds from your joint accounts. I have documentation showing irregular transfers that I believe constitute embezzlement. You might want to contact your attorney." Tom's face went from shocked to furious. "David, is that true?" David opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. No words came out. "Everyone needs to leave," Richard said suddenly, his voice harsh. "Everyone except family. Now." Tom didn't need to be told twice. He was already heading for the door. Mike and Linda followed quickly, both of them looking back at me with expressions of sympathy and horror. Janet squeezed my hand on her way out. "Call me," she whispered. "I'm here for you." When the door closed behind them, only Richard, Carol, David, and I remained in the living room. "David Mitchell Martinez," Richard said, using David's full name like he was a child being scolded. "Is everything Rachel just showed us true?" David's shoulders slumped. "Dad, it's complicated. It's not complicated," Carol shouted, tears streaming down her face. "Did you father a child with another woman while married to Rachel? Yes or no?" "Yes," David whispered. "Did you forge Rachel's signature on financial documents?" "I needed the money. Yes or no?" "Yes." Carol made a sound like she'd been physically struck. She turned to me, her face devastated. "Rachel, I am so sorry. I had no idea. If I'd known—" "I know you didn't," I said gently. "David lied to all of us." Richard was staring at his son like he was looking at a stranger. "I raised you better than this. Your mother and I taught you about honor, about commitment, about treating people with respect. And this is what you do? You destroy your family? You commit crimes?" "Dad, please, don't." Richard held up his hand. "Don't try to explain or justify or make excuses. You've done something unforgivable. To Rachel, to your children, to this entire family. Carol, we're leaving." "Wait," David said desperately. "Mom, Dad, please don't." "We'll speak to you when we've decided whether we even want to know you anymore," Richard said coldly. He turned to me. "Rachel, whatever you need from us, testimony, financial support, help with the children, you have it. You're the victim here, not our son." After they left, it was just David and me in the living room. The photos from Emma's surveillance were still cycling on the TV screen, an endless loop of his betrayal. "Rachel," David said, his voice breaking, "please let me explain. Let me tell you how this happened." "I don't care how it happened," I said. "I don't care about your reasons or your excuses. I don't care if you were lonely or felt neglected or whatever story you've been telling yourself to justify this. You had choices, David. Every single morning for 4 years, you made the choice to lie to me. You made the choice to steal from our family to fund your affair. You made the choice to create a whole other life with another woman and another child. I love you," he said desperately. "I still love you. This thing with Melissa, it wasn't supposed to be serious. It just happened, and then Lucas was born, and I didn't know how to— Get out. Rachel, please, get out," I screamed, all the rage I'd been holding in for a week finally erupting. "Get out of this house! Get out of my sight! I don't want to hear your voice or see your face or listen to one more lie. This is my house too, not anymore. The court order freezing our assets includes an emergency protective order. You're not allowed within 500 feet of me or this property. If you don't leave in the next 60 seconds, I'm calling the police and having you arrested for violating a court order." David stared at me, and I saw the moment he realized I was serious, that this was really happening, that his comfortable double life was over. Where am I supposed to go? "I don't care. Go to Melissa's apartment. You've been paying for it long enough. Or go to a hotel. Or sleep in your car. Just get out." He stood there for another moment, then slowly walked toward the door. At the threshold, he turned back. "I'm sorry. For what it's worth, I really am sorry. It's worth nothing," I said. "Now leave." He left. I stood alone in my living room, surrounded by the evidence of his betrayal still playing on the TV screen, and felt something break loose inside me. Not tears. I'd done my crying earlier in the week. What broke loose was the last remnant of the person I'd been before. The trusting wife. The woman who believed in her marriage. That woman was gone. And in her place was someone harder, colder, but infinitely stronger. I walked upstairs and knocked on Sophie's door. "Honey, can you and Max come downstairs? I need to talk to you both." They came down a few minutes later, looking worried. "Mom, what's going on?" Sophie asked. "We heard yelling." "Where's Dad?" I sat them down on the couch and told them everything. Not all the details. They didn't need to know about the forged signatures or the exact financial numbers, but the essential truth: their father had been having an affair. He had another child. He'd been lying to all of us. And we were getting divorced. Sophie started crying immediately. Max just stared at me, his face shocked and blank. "Does Dad love us?" Max asked finally, his voice small. "I think he does," I said carefully. "But he's made very bad choices, and those choices hurt all of us. Sometimes people do terrible things, even to people they love. That's not your fault. None of this is your fault. Is it true?" Sophie asked. "Does he really have another kid?" "Yes, a little boy named Lucas. He's 4 years old. Do we have to meet him?" Sophie's voice was angry now, which I preferred to the tears. Anger was easier to work with. Not unless you want to. That's entirely up to you. We talked for another hour, the kids asking questions, crying, getting angry, cycling through all the emotions I'd felt when I first discovered the truth. When they finally went back upstairs, exhausted and emotionally drained, I sat alone in the living room and let myself feel the full weight of what I'd done. I'd blown up my family. Yes, David had created the situation, but I'd been the one to detonate it. I could have confronted him privately. I could have divorced him quietly. Instead, I'd chosen to destroy him publicly, to humiliate him in front of everyone he knew. Had it been necessary? Probably not. Had it been satisfying? Absolutely. Did I regret it? Not even a little bit. Monday morning, Patricia filed the divorce papers and the police report. By noon, the story had spread through our entire social circle. By Tuesday, David's real estate firm had suspended him pending an investigation into potential financial improprieties. By Wednesday, his photo was in the local news under the headline, "Developer charged with mortgage fraud, accused of maintaining secret family." David tried to call me 17 times that first week. I didn't answer any of them. He tried to come to the house twice. Both times, I called the police, and they removed him for violating the protective order. His attorney called Patricia with a settlement offer. David would give me the house and primary custody in exchange for not pursuing the criminal charges. Counteroffer, Patricia told them. Your client gives Mrs. Martinez the house, 70% of all marital assets including retirement accounts, full legal and physical custody with supervised visitation only, and child support of $3,500 per month. In exchange, we'll recommend the DA pursue reduced charges, probation instead of prison time. He'll never agree to that, David's attorney said. Then we'll see him in court. And Mrs. Martinez will testify about every lie, every forged document, every dollar he stole. The jury will eat him alive. 3 days later, David's attorney called back. He'll take the deal. The divorce was finalized 4 months later. David got supervised visitation with Sophie and Max every other weekend. Supervised because the court deemed his pattern of deception and the secret family to be concerning factors. He got his personal possessions and 30% of our marital assets. I got everything else. The criminal charges were reduced to a felony fraud charge with 2 years probation and 500 hours of community service. No prison time, but a permanent criminal record that effectively destroyed his career in real estate. His business partnership with Tom dissolved. His professional reputation was ruined. Most of his friends and family had cut him off. And Melissa, according to Emma Chen, who I'd kept on retainer to occasionally check on the situation, Melissa had left him when the truth came out. She'd been furious to discover he was still married, that she'd been the other woman without knowing it. She'd kicked him out of the apartment and filed for full custody of Lucas with child support. David had to pay child support to both families now. Between what he owed me and what he owed Melissa, His monthly obligations were about $5,000. But without his real estate job and with a criminal record, he was working in construction management, making about half his previous salary. He'd moved into a studio apartment in a cheaper part of town. He drove a used car instead of his Audi. He saw his children, all 3 of them, on a court-mandated schedule. Never when he wanted. He'd lost everything. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I stood in my kitchen making coffee on a Saturday morning when the doorbell rang. It was 8 a.m., too early for most visitors. I opened the door to find David standing there, looking terrible. He'd aged a decade in the past year. Gray hair, tired eyes, cheaper clothes. "What are you doing here?" I asked. "You're violating the protective order." "I know. I'm sorry. He looked down. "I needed to say something to you. In person. Please, just give me 5 minutes." I should have called the police. Instead, I stepped outside and closed the door behind me, keeping him on the porch. "You have 5 minutes." "I'm sorry," he said. "I know I've said it before, but I need you to hear it again. I'm sorry for everything. For the affair, for lying, for stealing, for destroying our family. You were right about everything. I was selfish and cruel, and I threw away the best thing in my life. Is that it? I miss my kids. I miss you. I miss the life we had. Every day I wake up and realize what I lost. And it kills me. I looked at this broken man on my porch, this person I'd loved for 15 years, who I'd built a life with, who I'd trusted completely, and felt nothing, not anger. Not sadness, not even satisfaction, nothing. "David," I said quietly, "you didn't lose our life. You destroyed it, deliberately, systematically, for 4 years. You didn't make one mistake in a moment of weakness. You built an entire architecture of lies and kept building it every single day. You stole from your children's future to fund your affair. You forged my signature on legal documents. You looked me in the eye every single day and lied. I know. I hope you spend the rest of your life regretting what you did. I hope the guilt eats at you. But your regret doesn't change anything for me. I've moved on. I have a good life now. Better than before, actually, because it's built on truth instead of lies. Rachel, please, your 5 minutes are up. Don't come here again. If you need to communicate about the children, do it through your attorney or the court-appointed mediator. Stay out of my life." I turned and went back inside, closing the door firmly behind me. Through the window, I watched him stand on the porch for a long moment before slowly walking back to his car, the used Honda that had replaced his Audi. He sat in the driver's seat with his head in his hands. Then he drove away. I poured my coffee and sat at the kitchen table, looking out at the backyard where Sophie and Max were playing with our new dog, a golden retriever puppy I'd gotten them to help with the healing process. My life was smaller now in some ways. No husband, no big combined income, no illusion of perfect family life. But it was real, honest, mine. I'd started dating again, carefully, slowly, with Janet's enthusiastic encouragement. I'd gotten a promotion at work. I'd joined a book club and made new friends. I'd taken Sophie and Max on a vacation to California, just the 3 of us, and we'd laughed more in that week than we had in the entire year before. The kids were healing. Sophie had stopped crying every night. Max was doing better in school. They still had anger toward their father, and they probably would for years. But they were okay. We were okay. My phone buzzed with a text from Janet. "Coffee tomorrow? I want to hear all about your date with that architect guy." I smiled and texted back, "Absolutely. 10 a.m.? Perfect. Proud of you, babe. You're a badass." I looked around my kitchen, my house now, not our house, and felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. David had thought he could have everything. 2 families, 2 lives, all the benefits without any of the costs. Instead, he'd lost everything. His marriage, his career, his reputation, his children's respect, his parents' love, all of it gone. And me? I'd lost a lying, cheating, stealing husband. I'd call that a fair trade. The doorbell rang again. This time it was Mike from next door, holding a casserole dish. "Hey, Rachel, Linda made too much lasagna last night and thought you might like some. Also, I wanted to tell you, I think you're incredibly brave for how you handled everything." "Thank you." "Mike, that means a lot. If you ever need anything, help with the yard, someone to check weird noises at night, whatever, just ask, okay? You've got people looking out for you." After he left, I sat on my porch swing with a cup of coffee, watching the morning sun filter through the trees in my yard. Our street was quiet, just the sound of birds and someone mowing their lawn a few houses down. My phone buzzed again. This time it was an email from Patricia. FYI, David's attorney submitted paperwork requesting modification of visitation schedule. He wants more time with the kids. We'll fight it, but wanted you to know. You doing okay? I typed back, I'm good. Do what you need to do. He's not getting more time. The old Rachel, the trusting, naive woman I'd been a year ago, would have been devastated by all of this. She would have cried and agonized and questioned everything, but that woman was gone. The new Rachel knew exactly who she was. A survivor, a fighter, a mother who'd burned down her old life to protect her children and build something better from the ashes. David had thought his morning runs were a clever cover for his double life. He'd thought he was smart enough to juggle 2 families forever. He'd been wrong, and now he was living in a studio apartment, working a job he hated, sending child support checks to 2 different women, and seeing his children on a court-mandated schedule while I sat on my porch swing. In my house, living my truth, building my new life, I'd won, and it felt amazing. If this story moved you, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Your support helps me continue sharing stories that uncover the hidden truths of everyday life. There are so many more untold stories waiting to be revealed. Thank you for being here. Now tell me, what would you have done if you were in their place? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Please share them with me in the comments below. On the screen, you can see 2 more life stories I strongly recommend. There are many more waiting on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story.